Chess Not Checkers by Mike Miller. One introduction leading has never been easy. From our first experiment trying to get our classmates to follow us or receiving our first official assignment at work, leadership has always demanded our best effort. That has changed, but something else has. The complexity of the problems we face and the organizations we lead has increased exponentially. Perhaps this complexity finds its energy in the scope of your enterprise, or it may merely be a function of increased volume. And these are great problems to have. How? If leaders can orchestrate an appropriate response, unfortunately, for many leaders, our past successes just don't translate. The game has literally changed before our eyes. The methods that worked extremely well in the past no longer have the same effect. In many cases, the tried and true has become the tired and tarnished. Most of us began our leadership journey utilizing an approach with striking similarities to the game of checkers, a fun, highly reactionary game often played at a frantic pace. Any strategies we employed in this style of leadership are limited, if not rudimentary. To chess, not checkers, the opportunities in our world for leaders to play checkers and be successful are dwindling. The game today for most leaders can better be compared to chess game in which strategy math terms. A game in which individual pieces have unique abilities that drive unique contributions. A game in which heightened focus and a deeper level of thinking are required to win. Although chess, not checkers provides a rich abhor for leaders, it is much more than that. The game of chess contains 4 specific parallels that can inform and transform any organization seeking new levels of performance. I've positioned each of these ideas as a move your organization can make to draw closer to your goals. Collectively, these moves can be your blueprint for sustained high performance. I hope this simple story will resonate with you. The company Blake leads is not real, although the auctions he faces are as relevant as today's news. Invitationally omitted details about his organization, leaving it largely nameless and faceless. Hopefully, this approach will make it easier for you to think about your own organization. Is it possible you may be playing checkers when the game is chess? If that is your situation, today can be the day you start learning any new game. It's your move. Fair decision if you miss the opportunity of a lifetime. Do you ever get another one? Blake wrote these words in his journal, put down his pen and stared out the kitchen window. Up early. He couldn't sleep anyway. His mind was racing as he reflected on his life and career up until this point. The last decade had been a whirlwind. After his father died, Blake had invested 5 years trying to live up to his dad's expectations. Jeff had always believed his son could lead. Blake had never been sure, but he pushed through his doubts and dedicated himself to learning the skills of leadership. Blake's leadership journey had been frustrating. After learning to cast vision, build teams, get results, and more, he had been passed over for formal leadership positions. Confused by this turn of events, he reached out to his longtime mentor, Debbie Brewster. She helped him gain the greatest insight of his life thus far. If your heart is not right, no one cares about your skills. For chess, not checkers, this revelation led Blake to the next phase in his journey. Armed with the skills he had learned, he began working diligently to strengthen his leadership character. According to those closest to Blake, it was working. Blake was becoming a leader people wanted to follow. Now, a decade into his career, he finally felt like he understood leadership. The men and women he worked with seemed to agree. There were rumors Blake might someday move into senior leadership. But still, Blake was skeptical about his future at Dynaton, and he had lingering doubts about his own leadership. If he had so much potential, why had he already been given a position of leadership? All these thoughts made Blake's current decision even more difficult. The options were clear. Stay at Dynastic with the hope of a bright future, or take an offer to be the CEO of a small business in a nearby community. Small was a relative term. The business had annual sales of several $million and employed more than 50 people. Blake's income would be more than he was currently making, but that was not what excited him. Based on what he had learned, he believed the business had tremendous untapped potential. He was convinced that in a few years he could double the sales and profits. The upside opportunity was significant. The decision day, if there were still 2 lingering issues. The flat sales had not escaped the notice of the parent company. They were eager for a turnaround. In his conversations with senior leaders, Blake had the distinct impression he would need to make things happen quickly or the business could be closed or sold. His challenge would be to get it back on a growth track, as quickly as possible. The other issue was Megan. Happily married to Mike for just over 10 years, she had been with him every step of the way. Blake knew she was unsure about him making this move. Blake went to the counter to get another cup of coffee as Megan came into the kitchen. "Good morning," he said. "Morning," Megan mumbled as she made her way to the coffee maker. Blake handed her a cup, and she cradled it with both hands and held her face 6 inches over the cup to breathe in the warmth. Now somewhat awake," she said. "Today's the day you need to make a decision, isn't it?" "Yes, it is. Have you decided?" "I'm going to do it." "Might tip the scales?" Megan asked. "I see this as a huge opportunity for us. Industry like the business has been overmanaged and underled. Cease chestnut checkers. You know you have my full support, and I hate to mention it. But I have one last question," Megan said reluctantly. "Auntie?" Blake leaned forward. "You never led a company." She looked at him lovingly. "Do you know how?" "I think so," Blake confessed. "Your confidence overwhelms me." She smiled. "It looks to me like the business has been overmanaged and underled." Well, you're right. Have never led a company. However, I do know a lot about leadership. Though I've been here in the last decade learning to lead. Yes, I know, and I can see, even here at home, you are a much better leader than you were then. But leading cross-functional team and leading a multi-million-dollar organization seem... She paused. "Well, differing. I've thought about that, and I agree, but believe I can figure it out." "Okay," Minna gave a forced smile. "With your support. I know this can be a good change for us," Blake said, sensing her hesitation. I'm all in. She reached across the table and grabbed his hand. "Me too." "I made the call this morning. 7 harder than it looks." Blake made the call and signed the papers. He went to his boss at Dynastic and announced his decision. Then he told his teammates, he's sure that he had stumbled on the opportunity of a lifetime and felt like he needed to give it a try. All these conversations went surprisingly well, and everyone was extremely encouraging. On Monday morning, Blake drove to his new company. He arrived early enough to be the Firestone there. Without what all convincing, a security guard finally let him in since Blake didn't have keys yet. While waiting for the day to officially begin, he sat at his desk and stared at his new laptop. Just as he realized he didn't know the password, his thoughts were interrupted by a knock. "Good morning, sir. Susie, your assistant." She stopped and then added, "I'll be." Her voice trailed off. Middle-aged Asian woman? Susie was wearing a long-sleeved t-shirt, handmade beaded necklace, and sweatpants. She finished off her ensemble with large glasses with bright red frames. She was clearly chestnut checkers in the dress-free office by Blake's standard. However, he chose not to say anything about her appearance on their first meeting. "Come in, Susie. Have a seat. Can you repeat what you just said?" "I didn't quite hear you." "You?" "I said I'm your assistant." She paused. "Yeah, I heard that, but did you say something about hope?" Yes." She looked at the floor and fidgeted with a file folder in her hand as she spoke. "I said I hope will be your assistant." "What is it? What does that mean?" Blake was puzzled. "Well, Sarah, I was the former CEO's assistant. Both has warned us all we may not have a job after you arrive." "Why would they say that?" "I guess you'll have to ask them." "Okay, I will, but why do you think they would say that?" "Yeah. I assume, it might be because our performance needs to improve, and to improve performance, soulmate to make changes, maybe it's because the last CEO fired several people on his first day." "Really?" "Yes, I don't want people to be fearful they might lose their jobs, but it sounds like it's too late for that." "Yes, sir, I'm afraid it is." "So, I still is your assistant?" "Harder than it looks, 9, of course." Outstanding. Susie flashed a huge smile of relief. "How can I help?" "I'd love to know what you did to serve the previous CEO." "I did whatever he asked me to do." Blake was waiting for Susie to continue, but she was obviously finished. "Okay, we will want to talk more about that later. For now, can you help me with my password?" "Yes, it's the man, in all caps." "You're kidding?" "Kidding? No, sir, okay, we'll want to change that." Yeah. "Yes, sir. As soon as someone from it gets here this morning, I'll make sure it's done." "What do you want it to be?" "I don't care. Something simple." "Okay, when you decide, let me know." And Susie turned and walked away. Blake started to call her back to resolve the issue, but decided to wait until later. For now, he wanted to quickly check his email before his first meeting. He typed in the man, and when his email opened, he was shocked. None. He had over 200 messages. Quickly scrolling through them, he noticed at least 25% had the words "decision needed" in the subject line. He knew this was going to take some time and focus, so he shut down his computer and 10 chess. Not checkers asked Susie to give him a quick tour of the facility and show him the conference room where he would meet his executive team. As they walked, Blake noticed the place looked cluttered. There were iron boxes everywhere, and most of the desks had piles of file folders and papers on them. Blake also realized no one was at work, even though it was now approaching 8:45. When Blake asked Susie about this, she said, "We start slow around here today. Since it's Monday, most people will probably be in by 9. Blake thought that was odd, but once again dying to see anything. When they arrived at the meeting room, Blake said, "Thanks for the tour. When you get back to your office, please start going through my email for me and do what you can with it." "I'm sorry, sir, I'm not comfortable doing that," Blake, a little frustrated, said. "Okay, we can discuss it after this meeting." At 9:00, the scheduled start time, only 3 of the 5 invitees were present. John Roberts, Vice President of Marketing, Angie Stevens, Vice President of Purchasing, and Brad Montgomery, Vice President of Finance, and Vice President of Finance. Blake met each one at the door as they arrived and introduced himself. As everyone took their seats, he asked, "Who's that here? Who would typically be in a meeting like this?" "Hi, then Oaks 11, the 3 looked at him and one another. Initially, no one said anything. Then, finally, Angie raised her hand. "Yes, Angie, and you don't have to raise your hand. Who's not here who should be?" "Well, Mr. Brown," Blake interrupted. "You can call me Blake." "Okay, Blake. It's kinda, I'm to answer your question." "What is that?" I'm assuming you invited Charles and Elizabeth, but I'm not sure. And when you say typically at a meeting like there's nothing typical about this meeting? What do you mean?" "We don't meet," Brett said. "Okay, that's fine." As Blake was contemplating further response, a middle-aged woman wearing jeans and a sweatshirt stepped into the room. "You must be Elizabeth." I'm Blake. Nice to meet you." "Sorry I'm late. I'm not used to starting my day so early." She smiled at the group, and Blake noticed John and Angie nodding in agreement with her comment. He decided the best thing to do in the moment was to keep moving. Turning toward the group, Blake asked, "Anybody know if Charles is going to join us?" "Did you send an email?" Elizabeth asked. "Yes, I did. 12 chess not checkers then has probably not coming." "You don't really do email." I'll be sure he gets any notes from this morning." Blake was having some difficulty taking all this in. He hadn't been on site in an hour, and he was already seeing major issues starting with his own team. "Thanks for taking notes for Charles. This should be a short meeting, thank goodness," Brad said in a hushed tone, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Still trying to orient himself, Blake said, "I only have 3 objectives for this meeting. I'd like to get to know each of you a little better, and I want to hear about our goals and understand our challenges." "That could be hard," Angie said. "Why?" "Well, we can do the get to know you part and explain our challenges, but the goals, I'm not sure what they are. Anybody else know?" She looked around the table. All she got in return were blank stares from her coworkers. Angie added, "I think we have some. Unfortunately, I believe Charles may have written those down. Andy's not here." "Okay, let me ask another question. It's June. How are we doing against our plan?" "Our plan? What plan?" John asked. "We really don't have one, but we have some financial data," Brad offered as a consolation. "Higher than it looks. 13 great," Blake said. "How are we doing?" "Last month's profit and loss statement is in your inbox. So far, we are slightly behind where we were at this point last year," Brad offered in a matter. "Oh, fact tone. That's why we're here. We're going to improve our performance over last year. And how are we going to do that?" Elizabeth asked. "That's what we need to decide. John was confused, and so was everyone else. "I'd like to get to know each of you a little better, and I want to hear about our goals and understand our challenges." Elizabeth frowned and said, "That's not what Wed. That's your job. You figure out what we need to do, and we do it. If it works, outstanding. If it doesn't, well," her voice trailed off. "If it doesn't work, what?" Blake decided to lean in just a little. "Well, if history repeats itself," John began, "we'll be meeting the next seal. Thank you for your candor. I need to know what I'm thinking not just today, but every day. If we former team chestnut checkers are going to accomplish what I believe we can, we'll need everyone to say what's on their mind. We will talk more about our performance and our plan in future meetings. Now let's take 5 minutes each to share our stories. I'll go first. Over the next half hour, the men and women on Lake's executive team discovered things they had never known about each other, even though they had worked together for a long time. Elizabeth had climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, Brad was one of 9 children, and Angie collected butterflies. They learned interesting bits of biographical information from everyone on the team. From Blake's perspective, it was a small victory. And after the meeting, Blake went back to his office to look at his email. When he asked Susie for the password, she said, "Since you didn't tell me what you wanted, I chose Boss 5. What's that mean?" Blake asked. "Yeah, the 5th CEO. Really? Really? This company is only 10 years old. 10 and a half to be precise. That doesn't sound healthy to me. Who said we were healthy?" She turned and walked out. Blake shook his head in disbelief. He turned his chair and opened his email. As he read the messages, they fell roughly into 4 categories. Requests for harder than it looks, 15 decisions, messages from the headquarters, customer complaints, and junk. Not knowing what else to do, he started to respond. Entering messages to the customers with issues. He apologized and promised a quick resolution. To the request for information from headquarters, he asked for more time. Then, regarding the decisions, he made tones he could and forwarded others to his leadership team members. Blake was feeling some sense of satisfaction as the inbox got smaller and smaller. He was so focused, he lost track of time. It was Susie once again who broke his trance. "Mr. Brown, call me Blake, please." He said, "I'll try." "Oh, all habits are hard to break. Is there anything you want me to do for you before I leave?" "Mean. Where are you going?" "Are you going?" "Home, sir, unless you want me to stay." "What time is it?" 5 o'clock. O'clock? Seriously? I can't believe I've been sitting here all day. "Hello, sir, it's a big job, answering all those emails." I don't see it. Does this happen every day?" "Like bats out of hell. They just keep coming. Every day it looks about the same. 16 chestnut checkers, really? How can the former CEO handle it?" I screened them, and he did the rest. Yes. We talked about that this morning, and you said you weren't comfortable with that approach." "Well, I thought we needed to talk first. You have to tell me how you want me to respond. Give me an example." "Previously, I was told to delete messages from the headquarters." "Is that what you want?" "Absolutely not." "Absolutely not." "Oh, I wasn't sure. That's why I thought we should talk. Once I know what you want me to do, I'll do it." "I'll do it." "That's fair?" "That's fair." "Man, can we meet about that first thing in the morning?" "Yes, sir." "My time?" Let's start at 8:00. "Yes, sir, and thanks for not firing anyone today. Thank you for not quitting after having 5 kids in 10 years. One more thing, has the dress code around here?" "Dress code? I don't think we have one." "Well, we're going to establish one. Business casual will be our standard. I'll communicate that with the leadership team. Once you and I start tumor, Raoul will set the pace for the others." Susie understood Blake's message. "Yes, sir." "Got it." "At it. Hi, and then I look 17. Thanks for all your help today. I know, this is a big job, and there is no way I could do it without you. I'm glad you're on the team. See you in the morning." Blake stayed another half hour or so. He finished the emails he could, and was able to see what Susie had described his inbox as growing right before his eyes. Before he left the building, he walked the floor. Everyone was gone. Not that he expected a lot of people to work into the night, but the office was a gas town, and it was only 5:30. Diagnostic, there would have been much more activity at that time of day. All I'd observed on this first day gave him a sinking feeling there was much to be done. When Blake got home, Megan met him at the door. She gave him a big hug and a kiss. "Welcome home, my favorite CEO. How was it?" Blake knew better than to try to fool her. He smiled. "It's gonna be a challenge. Harder than you thought?" "Probably so. I'm just used to diagnostic." "Diagnostic, and although we weren't perfect, we were way ahead of what I saw today." "You love a challenge?" "I guess." Blake managed a forced smile. 18 chestnut checkers hats the biggest challenge you saw today?" Megan asked. "There were several, but the biggest may be the way we are doing the work. Think it's all wrong." "What do you mean?" "I don't know exactly. It seems like every decision and every problem comes to me. You should have seen some of the emails I responded to today. It's just not working. And I'm convinced responding to urgent emails is not going to fix anything." "What are you going to do?" "I'm gonna call Debbie. I haven't talked to her in months." In months. She doesn't even know about my new role." "That sounds like a good idea to me," Megan said. 19, something has to change. Debbie Brewster was the 3rd most influential person in Blake's life. After his mom and dad, Debbie had invested more in him than anyone else. She taught Blake how to lead. And the irony of it all is that since Blake's late father had mentored Debbie, many of the principles she shared with him came indirectly from his dad. Regarding his current challenges, Blake had complete confidence Debbie could help. He called her and she agreed to meet early the next morning. They met in the coffee shop they'd used as a central meeting place on and off for a decade. Good morning. Good morning, Debbie said, as soon as Blake walked through the door. Good morning to you, he said. How are you and Megan and the kids? We have got a lot of catching up to do, Debbie said. In no time at all, the two friends had reconnected. After a few minutes, Debbie said when you called, you said you had a new job? You're ACO now. Congratulations. How's it going? Twinkie chess, not checkers. Well, it looks like he's getting really challenging. Blake confessed, tell me more. Blake took the next few minutes to share what I learned so far. He concluded by saying, if I downturn this around quickly, I'll need your help finding a new job. Need your help finding a new job, Debbie said with a smile. Urgency is often agitate can create both clarity and action. It doesn't feel like a gift right now. What do you think I should do? I don't know. You don't. Blake was horrified. You don't know. Now I'm in deep trouble. Urgency is often a gift. It can create both clarity and action. Blake, I never led a large organization. So where does that leave me? Blake said. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You just need a different mentor. A different mentor? Sure. We talked about this before. Most of us need multiple mentors in our life. Someone who can coach, encourage, and counsel us in one arena may not be best suited to do so in another. Do you have someone in mind? I do. You need to meet Jack DeLuca. DeLuca. Something has to change 20. Unagree? Who is he? He's a retired CEO and a friend of mine. He was very good leading large, complex organizations. Where does he live? I'm at 2 hours from here. I'll send him an email introducing you and leave the rest up to you. Thank you. As promised, Debbie sent an email to Jack. The next day, Jack called Blake. Blake, this is Jack DeLuca. Nanny Brewster suggested I call you. Yes, sir? Thank you. How do they serve you? I'm a new CEO, and I could use some help. Okay, I'd love to give you a hand, Jack said. We probably need to talk about your fee. Blake had no idea how expensive this might be. Here's my offer. I'll help you if you promise to pay it forward. Is that all? Oh? Can I pay you? Jack laughed and said, no, son, you can't afford me. Besides, I'm at a stage in my life when one more consulting job is of little interest to me. Then, if I may ask, why are you willing to help me? My focus now is on helping leaders who can make a big difference in the world. Debbie tells May 20. True chess, not checkers. You are one of those leaders. Based on what she already told me, I also believe you'll actually pay it forward. I never want to help someone who won't help others. Yes, sir. I will. When I start. I'm not a young man, so we should probably start soon, Jack said with a chuckle. How soon? Are you available next Thursday morning? Yes, sir. Meet me at Gresham Pike at 10. Get a million, that is? I'll find it. How will I find you? I'm the crowd. You'll find me. See you there. 23 a different game on Thursday morning. Before Blake left his house, he did a quick Google search for Jack DeLuca. He quickly learned Debbie had understated Mr. DeLuca's accomplishments. He had not only led a wildly successful global organization, but also served on several presidential task forces. He was a major donor to numerous universities, and he was named the most admired CEO by several magazines over 3 decades. All of this fueled Blake's desire a little bit early. He didn't think Jack was a man he wanted to keep waiting. When Blake got to the park, he began to walk. He made exactly sure what he was looking for, other than a crowd. He walked past a large playground, and then he saw about 25 people standing around a picnic table. He couldn't see who was at the table, but he assumed it was Jack. He pushed his way through the people surrounding the table to see what was going on. 2 men stared at a chessboard. One man was in his early 20s. Blake recognized the other man from the media photos. Jack DeLuca. 24 chess, not checkers. Jack appeared to be in his early 70s. Fit and well-groomed. He was wearing a sweater and a wool hat. When Blake made eye contact with Jack, he offered a timid wave. Jack nodded. Then he looked across the table at the young man, smiled, made his move, and said, "Checkmate." The man looked stunned, and the crowd began to cheer. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's all for today. I have a meeting with an important CEO. I'll see you next time. Jack shook hands with his opponent, who still seemed a bit shocked by the game's sudden end. As the people began to disperse, Jack turned to Mike and said, "Jack DeLuke is my name. Glad to meet you." As he extended his hand, he said, "Have seat." "Have seat." Blake sat down, still processing what had just witnessed. "Do you play here often?" asked Blake. Every week. Every week." "Who are your opponents?" "Anyone who wants to play. Thanks for agreeing to meet with me today." I am delighted. Tell me your story." This is the first time I served as a CO, and honestly Blake hesitated, then said, "I'm a bit overwhelmed." A different game 25, Jack raised his hand to stop him. No, we'll have plenty of time to talk about your company. Tell me your story. How far back do you want me to go? How far back, do you remember? Okay, here we go. Blake spent the next 30 minutes telling Jack about his childhood, his father's death, his relationship with Debbie. He told him about Megan and the children, and finally about his career at Attampt and his transition to his new role as CEO. Outstanding. Now, Jarods discovered my unique company. Blake took another half hour to tell Jack about his team. The lack of goals, the work ethic, the dissatisfied customers, the declining sales, and more. "I recognize that situation," Jack offered with a faint smile. "You do?" "Yes, sir. I began building my career in an organization like that. Please tell me more." Blake pulled out his tablet to take notes. "As you've already discovered, what you're trying to do is extremely challenging," Jack began. Blake nodded in agreement. "However, the solution is closer than you think." "Do you play chess?" Jack asked. "Play 6 chess, not checkers, Lou. As a child, I remember some of the rules and the basic concepts. After what he had witnessed few minutes before, he was hoping Jack didn't want to challenge into a game. "Do you play checkers?" Sure, everyone plays checkers, don't they?" "Yes, many people play checkers." As Jack said this, he moved all the pieces off the board in front of him. He picked it up and flipped it over. On the other side were red and black squares checkerboard. He held up the board and turned it in the morning sun. "One side checkers, one side chess." "Have you ever noticed the 2 games are played on a very similar board?" "I never thought about it, but I guess both boards do have the same number of squares." "You were correct, 64 to be exact." "So that's the difference?" "I guess just the color." "Yes, the color is different, but that's just the beginning. The games that are played on these 2 similar boards are vastly different." Vastly different. Your point. I think I know your problem, Millie. We just met?" Blake protested mildly. "Wash's problem that obvious?" "Yes, I've seen it thousands of times in organizations around the world. If you want to lead a high-performance organization, you've got to play chess, not checkers." Anything game 27, you need to think about that a little bit," Blake said, still trying to absorb the implications of Jack's comment. "No, you're wrong. You're wrong. You don't need to think about it a little. You need to think about it every day of your leadership life. If you play checkers when the name of the game is chess, you lose." "Hold on," Blake said. "The boards are different. So how did a leader make that mistake?" "How can you make that mistake?" "If you play checkers when the name of the game is chess, you lose. Most small businesses can be successful with a checkers mindset. That's actually the game you play when an organization is in startup mode. The leader does virtually everything in the beginning. That checkers. And then if you grow, you begin to add staff. Many leaders see these additional people as interchangeable pieces, nothing more than hired hands, no need for specialists. Each piece is capable of the same limited moves. Checkers, in the beginning, the game is simple. And that's checkers. You react, you make decisions. The pace is front court playing checkers. And it works, for a while. You can win in business by playing checkers until someone sneaks in one night after you've closed for 28 chess not checkers the day and flips the board. And flips the board. The game changes and you don't even know it. Why would the leader know the game has changed? The change can be subtle in the beginning. When your board gets flipped, you hire the same products, customers, equipment, and employees. Initially, it's easy to miss the change. Besides, when leaders are focused, we can become colorblind. The chessboard and checkerboard look identical other than their color. If you're not looking for it, you can miss the change. Leaders all over the world miss it every day. Tell me again why the game changes. Complexity is the primary culprit. You can run a multi-million-dollar business, like you would a lemonade stand. Are there signs? No. How can I be sure the board has really flipped? Done. A problems you're encountering? Tending a clue. I got hundreds of problems, maybe thousands, Blake chuckled. I'm sure you do. Many leaders discount these issues. They tend to blame them on growing pains. Sometimes they may be, but often these problems are signals the board has been flipped, and a game has changed. If you try to play checkers in a chess world, problems are your reward. A different game. 29. Can you give me an example of checkers in my business? Okay. You told me about a problem you encountered this week and how you solved it, Jack said. We had a major customer who sent me an email telling me they did not get their order as promised. They not only threatened to take their business else, where they ended at legal action. What did you do? I expedited their order and flew to them overnight. If you try to play checkers in a chess world, problems are your reward. Jack was waiting. Anything else? No, I think that solved the problem. Again, you're playing checkers. You're just reacting. That's not the level of leadership your organization needs. You ever elevate a leadership game? Jack's tone and directness caught Blake by surprise. Jack continued. Certainly, you'll have to do what you can to salvage a customer. But you can't stop there. Why was the order delayed to begin with? Was it an order you should have accepted in the first place? If the problem was in manufacturing, what was the root cause? Oh, about the problem before 30 chess, not checkers, the customer contacted you? Why didn't they solve the problem? Was you known about this problem before you got involved? What is the history on this customer? Was this order delayed because it was a custom order? Had it been delivered on time, would it have been highly profitable? If not, why do you offer this product? What did you fail to do, as the leader, because you were investing your time responding to a customer complaint? Blake, you have to think more deeply about your business. I don't have time to ask all those questions. And, I really don't have time to find all the answers. Blake startled himself with the intensity of his response. Checkers, you're playing checkers. When you don't have time to do your job, that's a good indicator. Genia, playing checkers. Blake, is your primary job. Blake was still processing all of this when Jack continued. Here's another question to help reveal which game you're playing. Have you asked your employees to think deeply about the business? Have you asked them to prevent problems and solve the ones that do surface? My guess is you haven't. You and the others on your leadership team probably like coming to the rescue. You think that is your job? You like checkers? The pace and the excitement can be exhilarating. Your employees are following your lead? They're playing checkers because you are. A different game 31st has a lot to think about. Blake was listening intently, trying to hide his emotions, but a somber look crept across his face. He thought about how much he wished he could have this conversation with his dad. Blake had suppressed his feelings ever since his father died. He missed his dad but tried to hide it and wasn't sure why this sadness resurfaced here. Maybe because the exchange with Jack reminded him of countless conversations with his dad. At the end of each one, Blake had felt both challenged and inspired. Jack saw his reaction and offered this thought. I'll talk more. All this will become easier. There are many parallels between the type of thinking needed to excel in business and in chess. However, I'm going to simplify it for you. Simple would be good, Blake said thankfully. After leading scores of companies for many decades and playing chess my entire life, I identified 4 ideas or moves from the game that can help you or any leader build a high-performance organization. Over the next few months, I'll share these moves with you. Between our meetings, you can experiment with real-world application. Along the way, we'll talk about what's working and what's not, and why. Let's meet again in 2 weeks, same time and place. Before our next meeting, look for examples of chess and checkers in your organization. Thank you. Blake said. 3 chess. Not checkers, even though he knew how much he didn't know. Chess, not checkers made complete sense to him at an intuitive level. He was excited to have a chance to learn a new way to think about leadership in a complex organization. Blake was sure the board hard flipped. Now he and his team just needed to learn how to play an entirely different game. 33 game on... Back at the office, Blake was anxious to share his newfound insight with the team. Already, he could think of many situations in which he and the team were clearly playing checkers. On Monday morning, Blake arrived earlier than usual. He went to the conference room and set up both a chessboard and a game of checkers. When the team began to arrive, the comments were fun to hear. John was the first to arrive. He looked at the table and said to Blake, "Looks like the staff failed to clean up after game night." Brad and Angie walked in together. Brad sighed. "This is probably some team building activity. Well, we should be good at it because we're a pretty lame team, Angie said with a grin. As Blake listened to each disparaging comment, he maintained a good spirit and chuckled with each jab. After everyone was seated, Blake began. Thanks for being here this morning. I know it's been difficult for you guys with the revolving door for CEOs over the last decade. I know it's for us to work together to make this a great organization. 34 chess, not checker show. Are we gonna do that? John asked in a cynical tone. No, the answer may lie in front of you. He motioned to the game boards on the conference table. Although we know business is serious, it contains many elements of a game. I believe my problem, and our problem, is we're playing the wrong game. We've been playing checkers. Unfortunately, the game we should be playing is chess. Those are two really different games, Brad said in a thoughtful tone that indicated some level of interest. Blake hoped that was a sign of progress. Tell us what you mean when you say waved and playing checkers. Okay, let's start with the boy. Blake took the next few minutes to recap what I'd learned from Jack. He concluded by saying, being so focused, we can actually become color blind. We don't even know the game has changed. Are there clues? Angie asked. Yes, one of the signs the game has changed is a myriad of problems. Problems that reoccur. Problems that should have been anticipated and avoided. Problems that catch us totally by surprise and we should have seen coming, and problems that are created lack of focus or failure to execute. All of these are clues. Clues? When we see this happening, the methods diffused successfully in the past have to be reevaluated. Game on. 35, Blake. Do you think you're ready to like chess? And Elizabeth's facial expression revealed her doubts. We are a talented leadership team and people capable of outstanding work. What we are experiencing is a result of our outdated thinking. We can change our thinking, then they will be able to change our approach. It's a new day, and we're going to rise to the challenge. One of the signs the game has changed is a myriad of problems. If not, we lose, Brad added. That's correct. That's correct. But my promise to you and to all our employees is that we will not lose. We are going to learn a new game. Before we adjourn, I have an action item for each of you. Should have asked this earlier. Do any of you play chess? Only Elizabeth and Brad nodded. How long do you play? Elizabeth said. I'm just an occasional player. I haven't played in years. Brad? Mine is 100. What's that mean? John asked. 36 chestnut checkers. Andy answered for him. I think that means I have a ringer in our midst. Blake jumped in and asked, Brad, can you explain? There's a rating system for serious players, like a golf handicap, John asked. Similar. Brad continued, but unlike golf, the better you get, the higher your rating. What's the tall? Charles asked. Grandmasters, they have ratings over 2,500? 100. What did I call your level? And Brad was hesitating. It's the expert level. That's outstanding. Outstanding, Blake interjected. We'll have our own expert chess consultant. No. Here's your action item. Find someone not Brad to teach you to play chess. Pay special attention to the strategies and tactics needed to win. Take notes on what laying. We're adjourned. Adjourned as everyone was leaving. Blake asked Brad to stay behind. What's on your mind? Brad asked nervously. On yours, my arrival, yet another CEO transition has been hard. Blake paused. Yes, but not the hardest. Remember, I've seen this movie several times before, Brad said. I know. Here's my goal. I want to be the last CEO you work with. What does that mean? Game on. So I think you and I can both work here until we retire. And I believe we can make this one of the great organizations in the world. What makes you think we can become great? Great, Brad asked. I know it sounds like a stretch given where we're today, but we have an amazing product. Outstanding people who are grossly underutilized, a market with moderate competition, and a great EO as my coach. We can do this. Blake knew he was selling, but was Brad buying? Who's the EO? Jack DeLuca. You know Jack DeLuca. Yes, as my mentor. That's amazing. Based on what I've read about him, has the real deal. Now, I know, Blake agreed. I didn't know about Jack. Jack, is that a secret? No, really. It just hasn't come up. I think the team would be interested to know about that. Okay, I can tell them about Jack at our next meeting. Are you in? Blake asked. Brad thought for a moment and said, if we can hit what you're talking about, we can make a lot of money. He smiled. adding, "Hey, I'm a cowhand. You expect me to say 38 chess, not checkers. You are correct. We can make a lot of money. Well, let's do this." Brad didn't say anything. He just nodded. "What do you think of the chess, not checkers idea?" Blake prodded in an attempt to further gauge Brad's buy-in. "I think you may be onto something. Real life with checkers reacting to this and that. Often, we're reacting to what the new CEO wants, but it has rarely been strategic. We haven't stopped long enough to make good decisions. We're always fighting fires." "I wouldn't prevent the fires," Blake said. "Me too," Brad said. "And if we do it right, it could be fun too." He reached out to shake Blake's hand. Again. 39th day here as Blake drowers from his home to the park. He thought about the big idea from the last meeting. Chess, not checkers, is the key to leading a high-performance organization. He knew there was much to do, but he had no idea where to start. He's hopeful Jack's 4 moves would make his path forward much clearer. As he arrived at the park, the scene was almost identical, only the player across the table was different. And when Brady made his presence known, Jack made a move and said, "Checkmate." Again, the opponent looked stunned, and the small crowd began to applaud. "Thanks for coming. I'll be back next week," Jack said with a huge smile, shaking hands with a few members of the crowd as they departed. As the last person walked away, Blake sat down and said, "That was strange, really." "Which part? It was just like 2 weeks ago. Doesn't really am like that." 40 chess, not checkers, like what?" Jack asked. "You always win." "You always win?" "Here in the park I do." "But not always." "What's your rating?" Blake was guessing it was really high. 2650. "I'm near a grandmaster?" "Yes," Jack admitted. "Why do you play here in the park?" It's an outstanding place to meet people. I love being outdoors, and it's close to my house." Any other questions?" Yes, but they're all about our last conversation," Blake said. "Where would you like to start?" That's the point. You don't know where to start." Blake took the next few minutes to tell Jack about his conversations with the team. He also shared the most recent sales figures. "Yes, the last time we met, I promised you 4 moves you could make to create a high-performance organization. We need that desperately. To me, it looks like everyone in our organization is playing checkers, me included. People follow successful patterns. We talked about that. Checkers has worked forwards in the past," Blake added, "but it does appear come laxy. Flip the board. Can you help?" 30 or 40. I believe I can. As I said, these moves derive from winning strategies and principles from the chess world have parallel applications in any organization. What's the first one? In the early stages of a chess game, you work diligently to move your pieces into positions to max. Amaze their impact. This phase is called the development phase. The truth is, some places on the board afford more options and flexibility. A knight positioned in the middle of the board has more power than one trapped on the side of the board. So, the principle is, develop your pieces early for maximum strategic advantage. You can't wait until you need a leader to start developing one. In a high-performance organization, one way to apply this idea is to proactively develop your leader. The earlier in their career you invest in them, the better. You can't wait until you need a leader to start developing one. I call this move bet on leadership. All high-performance organizations do this. How did you do this in your companies? Blake asked. I'll share a few thoughts. But first, a word about why this is the first of the 4 moves. If you don't figure this one out, you always struggle as, checkers organization. You cannot be a great organization without great leadership. All of these are critical, but this is the first among equals. Leadership growth always precedes organizational growth. What's my role in developing leaders? Blake wondered out loud. Great question? The quest for high performance always starts with the leader, so does bet on leadership. Yeah, you've got to set the pace for your team. People do what people see. If you're not learning and growing, don't expect them to either. Blake summarized Jack's first move like this in his notes. Tess, not Checkerson. Bet on leadership, growing leaders, grow organizations think I know what that looks like. Debbie has coached me on this for years. Oh, you actually do? Jack asked. The gap between what leaders know and do is often why. The same things I've been doing. I'll get feedback from people so I can minimize my blind spots and identify gaps. Then, we'll create a multifaceted start here. 43 development plan. I'll read. Invest time with experts. and practice the skills I'm trying to develop. I'll also continue to share what I'm learning with others. This has been a very helpful discipline for me over the years. It helps keep me sharp and accountable. Outstanding. Debbie has done a good job teaching you the importance of growth for a leader. Your capacity to grow determines your capacity to lead. Blake smiled as he thought about all the times Debbie had reminded him of the same thing. Yes, sir. I do know that. What's next? To bet on leadership also means you'll want to invest in a team. You'll need a strong leadership team to help you execute this move and the others we'll be talking about. Your capacity to grow determines your capacity to lead. How can my team help with bet on leadership? To ensure long-term success, you must build your leadership bench. Your team can certainly help you with this. How strong is your bench today? Do you mean a bench like in sports? Yes. Who's next? Who are leaders you'll be grooming and developing for the future? That's your leadership bench. I don't think we have one. Blake grinned. 44 chess, not checkers. If you will identify your emerging leaders, you can begin to invest in them early. That will increase the chances they will be ready when you need them. Like chess players and good leaders think about the current move and the next move, also often several moves ahead. When you invest in emerging leaders, it means you're serious about creating the future rather than just hoping it works out. Jack smiled. That makes sense. Makes sense. When you haven't made it a priority. Blake jotted down a couple of notes. How strong is your team? Jack asked. Strong. Very strong. The individual players aren't bad, but there's not much teamwork. If you want your organization to thrive, you will need to strengthen your leadership team. You can't transform your organization by yourself. The challenges that are forcing you to give up checkers are the same challenges that require more leadership capacity. Your team can be your primary source of additional leadership capacity if they're up to it. Do you even bet on leadership? Why do you use the term bet? Because you can never be sure. Sure about what? You can't be sure your investment in individual leaders will pay off. Some will rise to the challenge. Some won't. Some leaders stay with the company and others leave. However, at Performance Star here, 45 organizations make the bet. They know if you can grow your leadership capacity, you'll never reach your full potential as an organization. What's next for me? Now, you get to decide. What will you do to bet on leadership? I would suggest a conversation with your team. I'm on it. Let's meet in 2 weeks again. Same time, same place. This page intentionally left blank 40. Set and place your baton on the ride home. Blake began to think about all he learned in the first few months on the job. Here we are! Leading a large and complex enterprise requires different level of leadership. Chestnut checkers made perfect sense conceptually. His challenge now was to figure out what it looked like in the real world. His conversation with Jack was extremely helpful. He believed his team could turn Jack's ideas into plans and tactics that would work. Even though they encountered his first real test, on Monday morning, the team assembled at 8:00. This was beginning to feel normal, even to Elizabeth, who was not a morning person. She already lied several members about moving the meeting to 0 p.m. The group politely declined. As the team gathered, Blake could hear a couple of conversations around the table. It sounded to him like they were talking about chess. Good morning, and I trust you've had a good weekend. I hear a couple of you talking about chess. We'll get to that in a moment. I've asked about the process we can follow, 48 chess, not checkers, create next year's plans. Brad, please give us a quick overview. Brad reviewed the plan and schedule with the team. Any questions? Blake asked. What's this first session about? It just says Benjamin, Angie asked. That's the session in which we decide where we're trying to take the business. Over the years, I found it counterproductive to do planning without a clear destination in mind. By the body language of the group, they seem to make sense. Will every department have to create a plan? John asked. Blake responded. Yes. Well, create the goals and key strategies, and the individual teams will create the tactical plans. We need as many of our people involved in planning as possible. Anything else? And no one said anything. That's fine. We'll talk a lot about the plan in the weeks ahead. Thank you, Brad. I need to tell you about my last meeting with Jack. Blake took a few minutes and talked about the first move for creating a high-performance organization. He explained the concept of bet on leadership. What do we do? Charles asked, because he had no clue where to begin. Although he had been in human resources for years, his expertise was in place to bet 49 selection and compliance. The company had never charged him or anyone else with developing leaders. What's up about that? Blake moved to a flip chart. Tell us again what Jack suggested, Brad prodded. He said we should lead the way and be intentional about our growth and development. And that's why we baton leadership. Growing leaders grow organizations. I and Tom nothing on us as individuals or the team, Angie asked. Bo, Blake said. Jake also suggested we create leadership bench for the future, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's start with how we might grow ourselves. Then we'll talk about growing and strengthening the team. If we have time today, we'll begin conversations about the bench. The team brainstormed for about 15 minutes. The ideas flowed quickly. Ideas to help us grow as individuals, create personal development plans, solicit feedback, accept stretch assignments, close critical skill gaps, find a coach or mentor 50 chess, not checkers next. The conversation turned to the team. This moved more slowly, in part because the team concept was new to several members of the group. However, after some uncertain moments, the team had created the following list of potential developmental activities. How can we help this team grow? How can we clarify our purpose, establish clear goals, evaluate the team on a regular basis, focus on team basics, better meetings, problem-solving, decision-making, etc. Build community among the members. The group began to review their work. Blake realized John hadn't contributed any ideas. He made a mental note and continued. Now, let's invest a few minutes to begin thinking about how to build a leadership bench. What would we need to do to pull that off? Again, the team had a brief, healthy conversation about what might be required in this facet of bet on leadership. Still, John said nothing. Place your bet, 51, John, Blake said. Do you have any additional ideas? No. Thanks for asking. Blake found this to be odd, but decided to talk to John offline. He ended the conversation by saying, thanks for sharing your thoughts today. Charles, will you please take the team's input on bet on leadership and come back with a recommendation for us to consider? Yes, Charles cautiously agreed. I'll meet all the time. By month? I might. Lay base some preliminary thoughts in a couple of weeks. First an idea, Blake responded. Our retreat is scheduled for the end of the month. Let's take a look at your recommendations then. We'll need to be sure your work syncs up with our planning process so we can budget accordingly. Sounds good to me, Charles agreed. See you all next week, Blake said. After the meeting, Blake went to John's office. John, can we talk? Sure. What's on your mind? How many are you? Why you ask? You are quiet today. The truth, John got up and closed his door. I think all this stuff you're doing is crazy to games. 52 chestnut checkers, the team, the meetings, the planning process. And Rojas suggesting we need to grow as individuals. Why is that strange to you? I'm already grown. I don't need a development plan. All I need is for you to get out of my way so I can win. Blake took a deep breath. I knew this was a big moment. He started slowly. John, I respect your open eye. I know you've got a lot of years on the job, John interrupted. Years of experience. Well, John, if you're not growing, it's really just 1 year of experience repeated over and over again, Blake continued, regarding the games. This business is not healthy. Healthy things grow. We're not growing. So, we're here to change things to get back on a growth path. If a just not checkers idea can help us grow the business and the people, I'm all for it. Blake wasn't finished regarding the team. I can not lead this business alone. We need a real team, one that sets strategy, solves problems, pushes and encourages each other, and loves doing life together. Do you want to be on a team like that? I just want to do my job. Do you want to be on the team? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's no way I signed up for it. Are you sure? Blake? Why is this hard for you to understand? I told you. I think it's crazy. Where's your bet? 52, John. If you can't work through this, we can't work here any longer. I think you lost your mind. We need a real team, one that sets strategies, solves problems, pushes and encourages each other, and loves doing life together. I respect your decision. Thanks for your service. Charles will talk with you about your transition. Why? Transition? Did you just fire me? He stood up and so did Blake. Blake calmly responded. No, you fire yourself. Thanks for your contributions to the company over years. We will be generous with your severance package. This page intentionally left blank 55 what's important. Lunsford quickly threw out the business that John was leaving. Of course the company would be discreet and offer a statement indicating John's decision to pursue other career options. Although that was true, Blake decided he needed to tell his team the rest of the story. So, he called a special meeting for the following morning. Just before the meeting was scheduled to begin, everyone shuffled in without saying a word. Then, They just took their seats and looked at their new CEO, waiting for an explanation. Blake was sensitive to the mood because everyone, including Blake, had liked John. Good morning. I called this meeting because no one needs to talk about John's departure. After an awkward silence, Angie said, "What? Pen. John had worked here for years. I know. I hated that he decided to leave. Did you really, or did you fire him?" Red asked. "No, I didn't fire him. I outlined what I expected from a member of my senior team, and he said, hidden, will I be part of it? I respect that." 56 chess, not checkers, what did you tell him? "I guess we should all know. Maybe some of us will make a similar decision," Charles said. "I told him 3 things were required. First, the willingness and ability to grow with the business. We cannot let it outgrow us. Next, a desire to help transform this organization so it can reach its full potential. And finally, I told John he had to want to on this team. I need this team to become a high-performance leadership team. And the first step on that journey is a desire to make it so. I really believe we have greatness in our future if we work together." Obviously, one or more of these expectations were outside his comfort zone, and he decided to leave. "Any questions?" Blake waited a moment and then continued. "I hope each of you can make a commitment to those things. I really believe we have greatness in our future if we work together. I can't do this alone, and neither can you. We really do need each other. If you have concern over any of these expectations, let's talk." If there had been any doubt before, it was non-clear. It was a new day. What's important? The time I'd come for Blake's next visit with Jack. He wanted to tell him about John's departure. He sure how Jack would respond, but at least he could get some coaching. Blake was also anxious to learn his next move on their journey to high performance. The bright, clear morning and warmth of the sea sun were bringing the park to life. From the looks of the situation, the nice weather had increased the size of the gallery at Jack's table as well. When Jack saw Blake in the crowd, he announced to the crowd, "It looks like my next appointment has arrived. I'll concede this game." His opponent, a young woman, seemed delighted. She asked Jack, "Is that going to help you buy in today?" Yes, please do," Jack said with a big smile. After Jack shook hands with several members of the gallery, he turned to Blake. "Good to see you again." This morning, rather than shake Blake's hands he had done on previous visits, Jack gave him a hug. Blake, a bit surprised, said, "Thanks, Jack. I bet you should use a hug today." "No, why did you think that?" Jack shrugged. "I don't know. You just got that look about you today." Apparently, John's departure was affecting Blake's demeanor. 58 chess, not checkers. Well, I guess I'm still wondering if I did the right thing. About what? John is gone. Did he quit? Sort of. Blake paused. It was a combination of resignation and termination. He proceeded to tell Jack the entire story. "Congratulations, Blake. For what? For your willingness to make the hard call. But my confidence in your future success just rose significantly." "Really?" "All I did was make a change in leadership. That single step is one many leaders are unable to take. They cannot muster the courage to do the right thing." "I hope it was the right thing," Blake said. "Based on what you told me, it was the right thing for the team, for the business, and for John." "And for John. I understand the for the team and for the busyness part, but say a little more about why letting John go was good for him." "I believe everyone has within them the potential to be successful. The release of this hat's important. 59 potential is contingent on several factors, including the desire, the effort, the right work, and the right place to apply their talents. If a person can't thrive in your environment and you release him or her to find another place better suited for them, you've given them a gift." John admitted he was in the wrong job. "You helped him escape. Thanks for that. It seemed like the right thing to do in the moment. Your comments are reassuring. Now, I'm ready for what's next. To allow someone to stay in the wrong job is an epic leadership failure. Today, we decide what the second move you need to make if you want to embrace a chess, not checkers game plan. But before we go there, give me an update on your progress with that on leadership. We don't want to miss that one. Everything rises and falls on leadership, you know." "Yes, you said it was foundational, and we're working on it. I'm learning and trying to apply what we're discussing. I think that counts as setting the pace. Charles is creating a preliminary plan for us to review regarding how we can systematically develop features 60 chess, not checkers leaders. And, as strange as it may sound, I believe John's departure will strengthen my leadership team. I understand completely, Jack said. Strength through subtraction when you have the wrong percent at the table. It siphons energy from the rest of the team. I see it all the time. Now, you must capitalize on John's departure by finding an outstanding replacement. Yes, but Tina and I are talking about how to move forward with the search. Jack asked. Are you ready to move? Yes. Thanks for helping me work through the issue with John. I feel better by just talking about it, Blake said. Jack nodded. Today we are going to talk about one of the most often missed opportunities in business all over the world. I have personally witnessed this next move single-handedly derail organizations and revolutionize others. Is built on a simple idea from the game of chess. A unified assault is always preferred over a fragmented one. Here's how this principle plays out in the world of chess. Imagine you want to attack one of your opponent's pieces. To do so effectively requires focus and multiple resources on that single piece. To attack with one is futile, your piece will be lost. And as a result, the best players don't usually attack on too many hats important. 60. Unfronts simultaneously. That approach spreads needed resources too thin and is not a winning strategy. To randomly attack piece to the left and one to the right applies little if any pressure on your opponent. You gotta make your pieces work together to maximize your assault. A unified assault is always preferred over a fragmented one. Done it! So, the movie's Blake waited. Act as one, Jack said. Boy, what's important in your business? Without hesitation. Blake said, our purpose, Miss Sion, and values to start with. Then, I guess key goals would be important too. Is all that crystal clear in your mind? No, not really, not yet, Blake admitted. Then it cannot be clear for your organization. Act as one is about getting everyone in your organization pulling on the rope in the same direction. That's a prerequisite to unleash the full potential of your business. Getting everyone aligned can have a phenomenal impact on your performance. I've seen it countless times. Blake grabbed his tablet and wrote, 62, chess not checkers, chess not checkers none. That on leadership growing leaders grow organizations too. Act as one alignment multiplies impact. Yes, I realize how important it is for us to pull on the rope in the same direction. Then swear! Was so amazed when I realized the organization had no goals when I arrived. It is hard to imagine leaders who ask people to give their best without helping them know what success looks like, Jack said. Or why it matters, Blake added. So in terms of next steps, I have 3 recommendations. 1. Decide what's important to you. 2. Get agreement from your leadership team. And, finally, begin an orchestrated effort to cascade and reinforce these messages throughout your organization. Sounds fairly straightforward, Blake said. Yes, but don't miss the power of each step. Decide, agree, and communicate. Most leaders fumble the ball somewhere in the process. What's important? 60 how does that happen? Blake asked. Often, the leader is clear on what matters most, and his or her key leaders know too, and yet everyone else remains in the dark. The information never reaches the front lines in the organization. This is a colossal leadership mistake. You can't harness the power of everyone unless everyone is in the know. You'll never really act as one unless you master cascading communications. Thanks for the challenge and the steps. I'm excited to say, we've already begun. Great. What are you doing? You'll never act as one unless you master cascading communications. We'll initiate our planning process with the leader. Check team. We're going to identify what we need to align around. We're going to work on at least 4 things. A long-term vision, core values, goals, and key strategies. Then, we'll involve the entire team to build tactical plans. Anything else I need to know about Act as One? Yeah, there's a lot you need to know. Jack laughed out loud. But you, Ling. You're right. That was a bad question. Let me rephrase it. Is there anything else you want to tell me today about Act as One? 64 chestnut checkers, glad you asked. Jack smiled. Just one mental note, assume alignment is something you can fix and walk away. It will be an ongoing talent. Think of your organization as a car driving at high speeds down a bumpy dirt road. The car will constantly be knocked out of alignment. Part of your never-ending role is to keep the organization aligned on what matters most. When your organization gets out of alignment, you lose energy, focus, momentum, and results. Thanks for the reminder. I assumed we would work on this forever. You're correct. Before I go, I have one more question. Can you say a little bit about high performance? That's language you use a lot. It may be obvious, and I certainly have my own definition. But what do you mean when you use the term high performance should be the goal of every organization? When superior results and competitive advantage are achieved and maintained over an extended period of time, that's high performance. That's high performance. A good month or a good quarter should be celebrated, but it should not be confused with high performance. The perennial winner in any field of endeavor, that's my definition of high performance. Fantastic. But I thought you made anything else we need to talk about today? Jack asked. What's important? Adds 65. Blake thought for a second and said, one more thing. I asked my king to learn to play chess. Nice move, Jack said with a slight smile. Thanks. Can you help me learn the game? When your organization gets out of alignment, you lose energy, focus, momentum, and results. I am not sure. That's beyond the scope of my normal consulting agreement, Jack said. Blake wasn't sure if Jack was serious or not. I will pay you full way, he said. Okay then, I'll do it. Teaching you the game will require some extra time. So let's schedule separate meetings for that. I don't want us to lose traction on what you're trying to do with your organization. I'll also send you a good book to explain some of the basics. Thank you. See you in 2 weeks. As he drove toward his office, Blake began to think of ways to help his leaders and the entire business understand what it means to act as one. He also 66 chess, not checkers, wanted to find ways to help people understand the importance of shared vision and values. When Blake arrived at the office, he stopped by to visit with Brad. Brad was an interesting guy. A finance person by training and occupation, he was not your typical accountant. He was different from the rest of Blake's team in many ways. For starters, he had not been affected by the new dress code. He had always been on the forefront of style. He usually looked like he had just come from the cover of a very trendy magazine. Blake was also reminded of Brad's atypical work style as he approached his space. Brad didn't have a traditional office. Knock knock, Blake said as he approached Brad's imaginary door. This work setting fit Brad's offbeat personality perfectly. It included a sofa, coffee table, and a large whiteboard on wheels, but no walls or door. Who's there? Brad said in a playful tone. Blake had never heard from Brad. I wish I knew a good knock joke, but I and Blake apologized. That's okay, I've heard them all. What can I do for you this afternoon? Wouldn't that have an office? Excuse me? Is that why you came by? Brad asked. What's important? No. I have something else to ask you, but I realized we never talked about why you don't have an office. You know, you guys, you want one. Thanks for the offer. I gave up my office years ago. Why? It's important to me for people to know inaccessible. It's the ultimate open door policy since I didn't have a door, Brad explained. Interesting. Blake sat there thinking. You said you had a question. Yes, but I think this conversation is related. You didn't have an office because you were trying to communicate something important, your accessibility. I came to tell you what Jack and I talked about. Today, act as one. It's about all of us being aligned on what matters most. He challenged me to figure out what's important around here and then decide how to be sure everyone knows. How do we do that? Brad asked. I think the ball is in our court. We have to let people know where we are headed and how well behave along the way. How can I help? I'm to the first playing meeting ready to create the future. 68 chess, not checkers. Blake was excited about the senior team's first plan name meeting. His perspective, the timing was perfect. Good morning. Thanks for carving out a day to begin creating the future. Blake's energy reflected the importance he placed on this meeting and the process he and the team were beginning today. I always believe planning is one of a leader's most important responsibilities. Are you serious? We never given much attention to it before. In the years we've done a plan, we just created something that went in a file. We never looked at it again, Charles said in a moment of transparency. Elizabeth added in a joking tone. How's that working out for us? Several members of the team chuckled. I'm serious about the importance of planning, Charles. Thanks for asking the question. Do you know what leaders do? Blake said, turning his eyes from Charles to the team. Lead, Elizabeth said. Yeah. And to accomplish goals, Brad said. You're getting closer, Blake said. Leaders are the architects of the future. He paused to let that idea sink in. Then he continued. Our plan is the blueprint for the future we're going to create. And what's important? 69, the plan helps us get everyone in the organization aligned. Exactly what do you mean by aligned? Charles asked. Leaders are the architects of the future. Blake took the next few minutes to explain X1. X1. He focused on the idea of everyone pulling on the rope in the same direction. To do that well, the entire organization must be on the same page. The plan enables us to move closer to being fully aligned. With everything in our planning, Blake timed. As we've learned in recent weeks, chess is a game of choices, and business is too. We win or lose based on our choices, and how will we execute against those choices. Planning is where we make those fundamental choices. So what are we going to do today? Brad asked. I know this is ambitious, Blake began, but I'd like us to decide what's most important around here. Blake went to the flip chart and wrote 3 questions. 70 chess, not checker zone. Why are we here? 2. What does success look like in 10 years? 3. What beliefs will shape how we do our work? These are the questions we need to answer today if we can. The first, why are we here, will help us address the issue of purpose. The next will help us define our mission. And the third will help us articulate our core values. Let's start with an activity, Blake said. And on the table in front of you, you'll find a 3-5 card. Take one of those and answer the first question. Why are we here? Everyone more quickly then handed Blake their cards. After he collected all the cards, he read each one out loud. Each idea was thoughtful, but each was different. After Blake finished reading, the group just sat there. Elizabeth was the first to comment. No wonder we don't act as one. We don't even agree on why we're here. The good news is we can fix that, Charles said. So why are we here? Blake asked. What's important? What's important? 71st. Next hour was they are insightful for Blake and the entire team. The conversation became animated at several points, which Blake interpreted as a good thing. After much debate, Blake walked to the flip chart and said, here's what I'm hearing. That our purpose, grow people and grow the business. The team seemed to like it. We can act as one on that, Brad said. Although I still wish it said profitably at the end. That sparked a short debate, and the team agreed they would be sure people understood the profit imperative. A is clean and simple, Angie said. I didn't talk about it. More important, I think we can do it. What's next? The team then launched into a conversation about long-term success. They were attempting to answer the question of their mission. It's really to establish one goal, Brad insisted. It is, but if we can set the right one, it could drastically increase our focus. This is all a scorecard containing multiple metrics. We just need 72 chess, not checkers, to decide what the primary goal is that will drive the right behaviors throughout the organization. The team invested a couple hours discussing dozens of ideas. At the end of the debate, Blake wrote on a flip chart. Our mission shown market share in a decade. Where are we now in terms of market share? Elizabeth asked. I'm guessing we're 7th or 8th, Blake said. Well, I need a lot more sales to be number 1, Charles said. How much more? Blake asked. We'll probably need another $3 to $4 million a year, depending on what our competitors do. That's exciting, Angie said. We are going to have to replace John, Brad reminded the group. And we should probably do that soon. We're also going to need to increase our production capacity. Is it doable? Brad asked. I think so, Elizabeth said. What's important? Blake asked the group. Are we good? Everyone looked pleased. Let's go forward with this. We have time to sleep on it before we share it with others, but it feels right to me, Blake said as he scanned the faces of the men and women at the table. Brad, please put together a communications plan. Let's review your recommendations at our retreat. Yes, sir, Brad said. Finally, the group turned its attention to the question of core values. Blake opened the conversation saying, I want to tell you now, this is going to be a consultative decision. I have some strong feelings about this topic, but I need your best thinking. Please don't hold back. Is that what does consultative decision mean? Brad asked. It means Blake is going to decide. Angie laughed. You are correct, Blake said in a lighthearted tone. I'm going to decide with your input. I really want to hear your thoughts. Who wants to start the conversation? Angie asked. And exactly what core values? Elizabeth fielded this one. Then beliefs that drive your behavior. Thanks, Elizabeth. So what are ours? Blake asked. 74 chess, not checkers. This simple question started the most animated conversation yet. After a couple hours, Blake said, let's take a break. Everyone come back in 30 minutes with your recommended top 5. The group came back refreshed. Blake began this final session of the day by asking everyone to read his or her list. He wrote all the possibilities on the flip chart. The overlap was affirming. On 3 out of 5, there was no debate. When Blake stopped writing, Angie looked at him and asked, which of these can you support? All of mine are on the board, he said, not yet wanting to show his hand. We have told our agreement on 3, Charles said. None of the others are bad. Then, Blake, you made the call. Blake looked around the room. Anybody else have comments you'd like to share at this point? Blake was unsure if the silence was fatigue, resignation, or general agreement. He decided to push forward. Okay, here are the 5. What's important? 75 or core values, passion, all in or not, at all learning the origin of our long-term success participation. Everyone participates, no spectators, creativity. The source of our competitive advantage, collaboration together. We horseperson's strengths. Wow. Elizabeth said. Do you guys realize what we did today? Now, for the first time ever, we actually began to act as one. Blake felt really good about the work of the team. Okay, let's continue to think about what we did today. Well, putting on the agenda for our next meeting. That will be a last call for any questions or concords before we move forward. Thank you for your work today. I'm going to look back and see this meeting and our decisions here as a defining moment for our team, our organization, and us as leaders. We're positioning ourselves for an amazing future. Thank you. This page intentionally left blank 77. For the first time in his short career as a CEO, Blake felt like the team was finally on track. And he was honest with himself. He was embarrassed it had taken him several months to get this far. Thank goodness Debbie had introduced him to Jack. The chestnut checkers moves Jack was suggesting were easy to understand and communicate. He knew what Jack was teaching him would take time to fully implement. But at least for now, he felt the team was on the right path. It was time for Blake to meet with Jack again. The team had already begun to implement ideas around bet on leadership and act as one. They were making progress. None? Blake was energized as he thought about his upcoming meeting. Once again, the park was relatively empty except around Jack's table. Again this morning, Blake found Jack playing a game with a small crowd watching. After Jack spotted Blake, it took several moves before he made his final move and announced, "Checkmate!" And, as usual, the bystanders' entities was not a typical chess crowd. 78 chess, not checkers. As the crowd departed, Blake sat down across from Jack. How are you? Fantastic. And you? Jack asked. I'm really good. I think I'm highly starting to get it. And I've been reading the book you gave me about chess. It really is a challenging game. What are you learning away? A lot. When I played as a child, I didn't know any of the strategies. All I really knew was what each piece could do and a few of the rules. Learning to play the game was a good idea, Blake. It will provide a good foundation we can build on and give you additional perspective as we look at the other moves your organization needs to make. Today, let's start with what has happened since our last meeting, Jack suggested. Blake took a few minutes to share the progress on Act as One and the work of the team. What's next? In our first meeting, we talked about the differences between chess and checker. Yes, I remember, Blake said. One of those key differences deserves a little more attention. What's that? In checkers, the pieces are basically interchangeable. Each is allowed to move only on the diagonal squares. In chess, there are different types of pieces. Who cares? 79 each with its own unique moves. To be successful in chess, you want to understand and capitalize on these different and unique capabilities. Here's the principle. The more you can leverage the unique capabilities of each piece, the greater your chances of victory. Here's an example from the game. Did you know each chess piece is assigned a point value? No, I didn't, Blake said. Yes, a queen is worth 9 points, a rook is 5, and a bishop is 3, and so forth. These values establish relative strength and can help you decide when an exchange is worth making. Here's that you may find interesting as you think about leveraging unique capabilities. Although the bishop is only worth 3 points, 2 bishops working in tandem are worth 7. 2 bishops working in tandem are worth 7. When used strategically, they create greater value. The more you can leverage the unique capabilities of each piece, the greater your chances of victory. This is the way you need to look at your people. When you deploy them thoughtfully, you create greater value. These like the bishops deployed wisely create additional value, Blake said. 80 chess, not checkers exactly, Jack said. When you work diligently to discover and leverage people's unique contributions, you unleash latent value and contribution. So, what's the move? High-performance organizations work to win the heart, Jack said. You're going to have to connect the idea of leveraging unique skills with win the heart, Blake said. Gladly, when people are given the opportunity to do what they do best, you engage much more than their hands. When you allow people to contribute their unique gifts and ask them to work from a place of personal strength, you do much more than get work done. You honor them and their contribution. Some leaders are satisfied if people show up on time and do what they are told. That's an extremely low bar. What I'm advocating and what you want are men and women who are fully engaged. When this happens, you unleash tremendous untapped potential in every one of them. I'm afraid we're not too good at that, Blake admitted. Most organizations aren't, but the great ones are. They create a place in which people willingly invest themselves fully in the work of the organization. When you create that type of environment, people respond at a deep, heartfelt level. You can literally win who cares. First their hearts and discover a wellspring of energy and contribution in the process. Is leveraging unique contribution all that required to win the heart? No, I wish it were that easy. It's just the starting point. What else can we do? Like everything we've discussed, there's no quick fix. To win the heart is a process. To further complicate matters when you are trying to win someone's heart doesn't get all. By that, I mean activities that will raise one person's engagement may not work with someone else. I've seen that before. While leading my team at Dinathan, I realized I had to treat people differently. That's a sign of leadership maturity. If you have manager's mentality, you tend to treat people all the same. Leaders understand if you want to bring out the best in each person, you must treat them differently. Jack continued. However, I do have a few ideas that seem to have broad application. I would love to know what those are. Okay, here's one that may stretch your thinking. Foster dreams. I have two questions, Blake said. First, what does that mean? Help people find and fulfill their dreams. Or a second question. 82 chestnut checkers hats that got to do with chess? Nothing. Nothing? Jack smiled. But it's still true. If you help people accomplish their dreams, you'll take another step toward winning their heart. I don't think I would have ever come up with that one on my own. I have to confess, it does seem strange. Call it what you will. If you help an employee go back to college or buy a house or learn to speak English, or become a lawyer or buy a new car, or whatever they dream of doing, everyone wins. And we can win their heart, Blake said. He thought for a moment and added, it's probably not something our competitors are trying to do either. You are correct. Correct. Most employers are trying to extract value from their people. If you foster dreams, you'll be adding value to their lives. It's a totally different end orientation. Our purpose does say, we want to help people grow. This sounds like one more way to accomplish that objective. Thanks. And what else do I need to know? Have you considered giving people real responsibility? I think we do that now. Exactly what are you talking about? Most people want to do more, be more, and contribute more. Giving them real responsibility is one way to fulfill that desire. Giving people real responsibility also communicates that you trust them. Who cares? Doing guessing and also accelerates that growth when you ask them to do something challenging. Most employers are trying to extract value from their people. If you foster dreams, you're beating value to their lives. Yes, but let me give you a point of clarification. I'm not talking about just assigning tasks. Certainly you will continue to do that as needed, but talking about assigning outcomes. And when people know the outcome you want or need and you don't tell them how to get it done, their responsibility meter comes alive. All of these actions together create a winning combination. If you do these things well, you'll not only win the hearts of your employee, you can also create competitive advantage. You'll be able to recruit and retain top talent, Jack continued. Here's the best part. You're already paying for their handstand. With every pair of hands you hire, you get a free brain. The key to unlock that brain lies in the heart. When you get the head, the heart, and the hands, you've tapped a deep well of passion, creativity, and performance. Anything else? 84 chestnut checkers, one more thing, and it's probably the bottom line. You must show them you care. Ooh. Any of these heart you want to win. Every person on your team, from the most junior to the most senior, wants to know, do you care about me? When they know the answer to that question is yes, they tend to reciprocate. Caring begets caring. Blake attempted to summarize Jack's counsel as he added to his notes. Chestnut checkerson. Bet on leadership. Growing leaders grow organizations too. Act as one. Alignment multiplies impact 3. When the heart engagement energizes efforts, he finished writing, "You won't do." And Jack was standing. He extended his hand to Blake. Thanks for who cares. 85 coming today. Let's meet again in 2 descending time. We're actually going to play chess. Blake frowned and said, that should be a short meeting. See you in 2 weeks. At the office, Blake was preoccupied with two things: discovering how to win people's hearts, and finding John's replacement. He knew the heart issue was important, but finding someone to fill John's role seemed urgent. Blake sat at his desk staring out the window as Say came to the door. Blake, she said, raising her voice slightly each time. Yes, I'm sorry, I was thinking again. She smiled. Nah. Yes, I was thinking. About what? I need challenge recently about helping our staff members leverage their strength. I don't... How do you determine what someone does well? What they were born to do? He said, still thinking, not really intend. Susie to answer? You can ask them. What? You could ask them what they love to do. If you ask people about their passions and gifts, and most folks will tell you. 86 chess, not checkers, how about you? Blake asked Susie. How about me? What? When are you at your best? I love connecting people. I'm a networker. And, really, I didn't know that about you. Is you waggling about people when you ask? Did you have a question? I came in to tell you the candidate for John's job called and decided not to come today. He wants to reschedule the appointment? Not exactly. He said he changed his mind entirely. Want to interview for the job? Blake's shoulders slumped. Yeah, we can dilate. Thanks for letting me know. If you want me to help out with John's work until you find his replacement, let me know. That's kinda you. Do you know anything on marketing? Well, I told you I'm a connector. Susie paused. And I have a master's in marketing from Northwestern. You do? Yes, sir. Burned out at a big agency, came here to recover and never left. Blake sat looking at her in disbelief. Before he could decide what to say next, Susie said, it's amazing what you can learn about people if you ask them. She turned and left with a big smile on her face. Who cares? Who cares? Could Susie really serve as the head of marketing? That'd be crazy, he thought. However, he didn't take time to do the work himself. He decided he would talk to some of his team about Susie paying while he interviewed other candidates. It wasn't the craziest thing he had ever done. The thought of playing chess with Jack came immediately to mind. At the next leadership team meeting, Blake shared what he had learned from Jack about the third move. Win the heart. He reminded his team that just like chess pieces, each person on the team had unique talents, gifts, and capabilities. They were not interchangeable pieces. Blake concluded this conversation by asking everyone to meet with each member of his or her respective teams before the next meeting. Ask them to share their strengths, passions, and interests. Take good notes. We'll review all of it when we get back together. I've recently been reminded you can learn a lot about someone by asking. Blake ended their time together by surfacing the issue of Susie filling in while they looked for John's replacement. I think we should give her a chance. Who knows? Oh no! She'd be great, Elizabeth said. 88 chess not checkers well. Charles said this entire conversation highlights the need to develop future leaders. I need to develop future leaders. It's too bad we don't have anyone on John's team who can step up. You're right, but we aren't. Andy said in a back tone. What do we have to lose? Brett asked. Not much, Charles said. Okay, I've heard enough. We'll ask Susie to join this team as interim director of marketing, Blake said. 89 she'll move the business continued to improve her, so it seemed. The team was now interacting between meetings. Susie was doing much better than anyone expected. She was open to feedback, and she asked outstanding questions. Like I hired a temporary assistant, Alex, so Susie could focus on her new role. Then, on the day before Blake's next meeting with Jack, things took a big turn for the worse. Blake had arrived early to slay the email dragon before it grew in strength. He had made several positive changes over the previous weeks, and the number of messages was steadily decreasing. His team now owned many of the issues once funneled directly to him. From his perspective, this was a very good sign. However, quite a few messages still made their way to him. This morning, he found one that captured his full attention. The subject line read, "We're done yet." As Blake quickly read the message, his heart rate increased. He scrolled back to the top to confirm the sender. Unfortunately, it was their biggest client. They were leaving. I am leaving. They were not satisfied with the service, the product, or the attitude of Blake's company. 90 chess, not checkers, he wanted to scream. The lagging sales of the previous few months would now become a clearer, declining trend line. His mind raced. Maybe he could salvage the customer. He wanted to call. However, the email ended with this. Don't waste your breath calling. I don't take your call. What is that? Blake called an unscheduled leadership team meeting. Everyone arrived, not knowing what was up. We have an issue. I received an email this morning from Sam Everett. For those of you who don't know, he is our biggest customer. Actually, he is our biggest customer. Did he die? Angie asked. No, Blake said, trying to stay calm. He has taken his business elsewhere. That's not good. The truth is, that's terrible, Brad said with a grimace. Yes, that's bad. Our sales trend now is definitely headed south. What happened? Charles asked. He's fed up with our poor products and service. He also says we've not been responsive to his concerns. I will send you all the email and you can read it yourself. Elizabeth, I want you to dig into this. Help us find specifics. We may not get answers from Sam. He said he wouldn't talk to us, but Leonard can. People, we cannot ever let this happen again. If we're going to accomplish the things we've been It's Your Move 91 are talking about, we need new customers and we need to keep the ones we've already won. I don't have anything else for you right now, Elizabeth. Be prepared to give us a full report at our next meeting. If there's anything we can do before then, let us know. Adjourned. Blake walked out, leaving everyone sitting around the conference room table. The next morning, Blake drove faster than usual to his meeting with Jack. He was anxious to tell him about Sam's defection and glean whatever wisdom he could. In the park, it was the same scene as before. Blake saw a small crowd gather around Jack's table and what he assumed was another novice learning the power of a grandmaster. As he made his way through the crowd, he was taken aback to see Brad sitting across the table from Jack. Blake and the others watched in silence. Although still a novice, Blake had a sense this game was different than the ones he had watched Jack play before. First, there were far fewer pieces left on the board, and Jack's facial expression and body language made it appear he was concentrating more deeply. After a few moments, Jack made his move, but it was not checkmate as Blake might have anticipated. Jack said, check. 92 chess, not checkers. Brad quickly made his move. Jack smiled and said, good effort. He then moved a single pawn and said, checkmate. Everyone began to clap, including Blake. 8 years old. Brad offered a little more challenge than Jack's usual opponents. Thanks. Aline. Everyone. See you next week. Sweet. As Brad stood to leave, Blake smiled and said, sit back down. The awesome explaining to do. It's really very simple. You challenged us to find someone to teach us to play chess. Since I wanted to find someone to help me play better. I sent Jack an email asking him for Gabe. Brad stood a second time to leave. I do need to get back to the office. Thanks, Jack. I enjoyed our game. Hopefully, we can play again. I hope we can. You know where my office is? Jack motioned to the table in front of them. After Brad left, Blake said, thanks for coaching us. More and more. I'm understanding this chess, not checkers mindset has far-reaching implications. Yes, it does. What's on your agenda for today? But before we jump in, I noticed something today at the end of your game with Brad. What was that? He checkmated him with a pawn. I didn't know you could do that. It's your 93 eyes. Why does that surprise you? The pawn has the least amount of power, mobility, and the lowest point value of all the pieces, correct? But it's a great metaphor for what you and I have been talking about. The pawn is always crucial element in victory. Sometimes, as you saw today, it's even the pawn that delivers the final blow. It's just not Tekker's approach to leadership. The moves you're learning are intended to marshal all your resources to help you accomplish your objective. Frontline workers, your so-called pawns, are critical to your success. Even though you might think their power is limited, you can't win without them. Thanks for that reminder. I've just never seen a pawn take down a king, Blake said. Oh, I think you have. When? What? You're the 5th CEO in 10 years at your company? Correct. Good. He took down those previous CEOs. Was there a competition? Was there a coup d'etat? I'm guessing poor execution at the front lines brought down those leaders. If the frontline people aren't performing and the leader can't correct the situation, the leader will fall. Never underestimate the power of those on the front lines doing the work. Blake sat in silence. Are you okay? Naive board chess, not checkers, just thinking? One of the things I wanted to discuss today was, we lost our biggest client. Jonas has shed new light on why they decided to leave us. What happened? Jack asked. Blake proceeded to tell Jack everything about some in the lost account. Never underestimate the power of those on the front lines doing the work. This is perfect, Jack said. Perfect? Blake was indignant. What's perfect at it? It's the perfect setup for the fourth move, Jack continued. How good are you at the execution in your business? Exactly what are you referring to? In football, you call it blocking and tackling. I had the overnight package delivery business. You look at on-time rates to answer my question. In restaurants, you might look at operational or customer satisfaction metrics. My question is simply this. How good are you at delivering what your customers pay you to do? Sadly, we're not great, Blake said. You can change, Jack offered with urgency in his voice. If you don't, you'll never win consistently. It's your move 95, so what's the final move? I won't begin helps here. It's what we've just been talking about. Excel at execution, that's the fourth move. And the end. Easier? Execution is what separates the great organizations from all the rest, Jack said emphatically. Okay. Oh, how does that relate to chess? It's derived from a principle simple to articulate and challenging enough to warrant a lifetime of pursuit. If you consistently make the right moves at the right time, you win, Jack continued. In chess, it's always best to be intentional and strategic, no wasted moves. However, the right move is sometimes determined by your strategy and sometimes by circumstances outside your control. If you see your opponent shifting resources toward a weak area in your line, you don't wait to see if he or she is bluffing your move. To move too late is equivalent to not moving at all. The right move involves intentionally deploying the right resources at the right time for maximum effect. In business, the implications are infinite. This principle explains why it's much better to build quality into the process versus inspecting to remove defects. It explains why preventive maintenance is preferred to downtime due to equipment failure. It explains why training people before they assume a role is preferred to the cleanup often required after they've tried and failed. 96 chess, not checkers. Besides, any plan is only as good as your execution. If you don't execute, you will not win in business or in chess. You must execute. Great organizations excel at execution. Blake made a quick note. Chess, not checkers. Some bet on leadership. Growing leaders grow organizations too. Act as one alignment multiplies impact 3. Win hard, engage and energizes effort 4. Excel at execution. Greatness hinges on execution, Jack asked. How much time do you devote to execution? Are you kidding me? That's all we talk about, Blake protested. It's your move. 97 talk is cheap, Jack offered in a serious tone. Are you executing at a higher level today than you did 30 days ago? I'm not sure. Not sure. I don't think so. First, you should know the answer to that question. Blake made a quick note to find the answer when he got back to the office. To help your team improve execution, measure what matters most. How do you set any goals for the business? We've talked about a long-term mission. Outstanding. Outstanding. What about short-term goals? We have not worked on those yet. I suggest you do that soon. And once you've set those goals, be sure you share the score with the entire team. People love to keep score. You may also need to teach the basics of business to your team members so the score makes more sense. Do you really think everyone wants to know the score? Without a doubt, I doubt there is no measurement. Work quickly becomes drudgery. Meaningful measurement will bring energy, focus, and improvement to any area of your business. We need to work on this. My leadership teammate had a scorecard in the past. Therefore I'm guessing they aren't sharing the score with their people. 98, chess, not checkers. It sounds like you have a lot of people just going through the motions. That hurt. But Blake had no reasonable defense. Jack was probably right. Anything else? He said weakly. To help your team improve execution, measure what matters most. To improve execution, be sure your business is built on systems, not on personality. Anyway, gonna have to say a little more about that one, Blake requested. Systems are replicable, personality is not. Yeah, I don't want something to be done with excellence only because a certain person is doing it. As an example, you don't want a selection process that works because one person makes good people decisions, heads, checkers. When that person leaves or dies, you want to build a system capable of making good people, selections, hats, chess. What else can we do? I'll give you a couple more, Jack said, as if he had a dozen ideas on the tip of his tongue. This was related to sharing the score. Communicate performance visually. Charts, graphs, and other creative It's Your Move 99 means of communication will help people focus on the fundamentals. Imagine 3 means of communicating. Can you give me an example? Is waste an issue for you guys? Sure. It's true for us and all of our competitors. Have you ever considered a display? A display of what? A display of waste. Really? It's just an idea, but you need to do whatever it takes to communicate with your people. Sometimes seeing is believing. Blake added this to his list of ideas, and that seemed odd to him in the momentous display of waste. One last idea. Narrow your focus. You said the customer you lost had several issues, yes? Yes. You can't attack all the problems at one time. If you want to significantly improve execution in any area, you will need to focus. How do I know where we should focus? Just like in chess, you will need to think deeply, choose wisely, and act decisively. Every move counts. Excel at execution hats, how you ultimately win the game. It's not the team with the most elaborate game plan. It's the team that can successfully run the 100 chess not checkers plays they call. And they don't just win, they become champions. Blake finished the conversation. I know you and I were supposed to play a game today, but if it's okay with you, I would like to do that later. I need to act decisively back at the office. 100 on Monday game plan. On the way back to the office, Blake called Alex. Please see if everyone on the leadership team is in the office today. If they are, call a meeting for 2:00. Although Blake believed the business was generally headed in the right direction, he agreed with Jack they needed more focus on execution. At 2:00, Blake began. Things are coming on such short notice. I had a good meeting today with Jack, and we talked about the fourth move we need to make to create a high-performance organization. Excel at execution. Excel at execution. Isn't that what we've been working on? Charles asked. Yes and no, Blake said. The yes part, we are making good plans and laying the groundwork for the future. The no part, we are not moving with enough urgency. Our conversations have been focused on the first 3 moves, and we've not done enough to improve our execution. Regardless of what we're working on, we can never forget we must execute. Ultimately, we want to excel in this arena. Right now we're playing catch-up. Wonder they didn't shoot chess, not checkers hats, how we lost Sam's business. We took on an eye off the ball we failed to execute, Brad added. I agree. Yeah, here's what I'd like us to do this afternoon. Let me share some of what I learned today about how we might improve our execution. Then let's create our action plans for this week. What are the other things we've been talking about? Charles asked. Are we still want to do those things? What things? Susie asked. She was still catching up. I'm working on a plan for leadership development, and Brad is working on a communications plan for our vision, mission, and values. Charles responded. Yes, Blake interjected suddenly. All of that reflects good, critical thinking about a long-term success. We will still do that work at work. However, if the house is on fire, you don't work on a fire prevention plan. You put out the fire, Brad said, finishing Blake's sentence. Exactly. You must always be looking for critical gaps. And when we see one, we must attack. Attack the gaps like that, Angie said. How is all of this going to be possible? We only have so many hours in a day, Charles said. Granted, that is our reality. That's why this chestnut checkers idea makes so much sense to me. Remember, if we do this well, we'll be able to engage game plan 103rd entire workforce to help us lead and manage the business. Our success will not be contingent on a few heroic acts by you or me. The more involvement we can create, the more capacity we can generate. If the house is on fire, you ductwork on a fire prevention plan. So, that's why we want to bet on leadership. Acts 1, win the heart, and excel at execution. Susie summarized the conversation quite well for someone who had walked into the movie an hour after it started. That's a great recap, Blake offered. So what do we do? Brad asked. Let me say, it's my fault we have stumbled over the last few months. I apologize. One of my roles, and yours, is to invest enough time on the future of the business to ensure we have one. But at the same time, we cannot become preoccupied with the future at the expense of the present. At the expense of the present. I'm confused, Charles admitted. I was tracking with you until that last comment. Are we supposed to work on today or tomorrow? Susie jumped in. Well, if that's the leadership challenge Blake is giving us, we have to be concerned with the big picture and the details. That's what senior leaders do. 104 chestnut checkers thinks Susie. You are correct, Blake commented. That's what I need each of you to do. It still sounds hard, Charles added. It is. It'll be a constant tension that we must manage. I can give you a quick summary of what Jack and I discussed about excellent execution. I think it's a timely message for us in light of our current situation. Blake gave a brief overview of his meeting with Jack. So what do we do now? Angie asked. Before Blake could respond, Susie jumped up to the flip chart and said, Blake wants a plan for the week, and we have already started our long-range planning. Let's recap what's underway and look for gaps. The team sat in amazement, and no one knew Susie had this in her. Okay, Susie, Angie started. Here's what in working on. As she spoke, Susie wrote her items on the flip chart. Who's next? Susie asked. One by one, people shared their work in progress. After the list was complete, Susie started at the top and asked 2 questions. Who is accountable for this? When will it be finished? She then noted a name and a date by each item. When she finished the last item, Game Plan 105 shut down. Looking at Blake, she said, Is that what you wanted to accomplish today? Blake, still surprised by Susie's adeptness, said yes. Thank you. Now, Blake said, as he picked up the facilitation role. The last step for today, list. Look at the list we just made and decide if we are missing anything. Attack the gaps, Elizabeth chimed in. Exactly, Blake said. The balance of the conversation uncovered a couple of short-term items the team wanted to do right away. One of them was to have departmental conversations at the individual scorecards. What metrics did each group consider critical and how could they be monitored? And another item was for Blank and me. Meet with Sam face to face. He really didn't expect to get the account back, but he did want to apologize and try to learn as much as possible about why a company lost his business. This all makes sense to me, Blake said. If we believe chess is preferred over checkers, these items should accelerate our journey. Now that we've created our game plan, it's our move. This page intentionally left Blanco and hundreds on what's next. In the weeks leading up to the planning retreat, a new energy swept the company. The leaders were talking with their team members about what was important and how they might keep score. The ideas generated were diverse, some more creative than others. But the metrics were effective in letting everyone know the score. They included time to fill a customer's order, accuracy, returns, waste, and overall customer satisfaction. On the marketing team, Susie led the group to think beyond sales to the source of sales. They set goals around sales from new customers as well as existing customers. They also decided the size of the order was a good metric to consider. All in all, Blake was pleased. Substantive conversations about the business were happening all across the organization. Blake was also glad he had another meeting with Jack before the retreat. They met in their usual place. And yes, Jack was playing chess when he arrived. After the game, Jack said, Did you make any moves since we last met? 100 chess, not checkers? Yes, sir. Blake shared several of the items the team was addressing. Miss Nix. No, Jack asked. We are working on our plan to teach the entire organization to play chess, not checkers. We're going to introduce our 4 key moves. Bet on leadership, act as one, win the heart, and excel at execution. Collectively, these have given us a good framework to think about what's next for our business. Yes, you can think of these 4 moves as the blueprint for enrolling everyone on the journey to become a high-performance organization, Jack said. And then, all I need to do is keep learning and growing, Blake added. Congratulations, Jack said. For what? Your instincts are correct, you must keep pursuing. This idea of high performance is really not something you ever fully realize. Once you think you're finished, you're finished. The competition is not sitting still. If you stop, or sometimes all you have to do is slow down, the competition will blow right past you. High performance is a lifelong pursuit fueled by personal and organizational learning. Well, thanks to your affirmation, Debbie drummed this learning bias into me for several years. She was wise to do so, Jack said. Are you ready to play chess? What's next? Ike. 109 the next hour or so was delightful. Jack was gracious. Rather than annihilating Blake in the first few moves, he talked to him about why he was making each move. He asked questions along the way to prompt Blake to make good decisions. He reminded him to move each piece into positions to leverage its strengths, to involve all his pieces, and to think multiple moves ahead. And then, all of a sudden, Blake saw something. He looked across the board at Jack. They both grinned. Blake then took a lone pawn and moved him decisively and said, Take me! Jack began to clap. Well done, Blake. But either you let me win or I was extremely lucky. Blake laughed. You made the right moves at the right time, Jack said with a wink. Chess is not a game of luck, and neither is business. When you win, it's because you made good decisions. That's what my team and I are trying to do. And thanks for helping us. It has been my pleasure. At the retreat, Blake gladly waited to tell the team he beat Jack in chess. 110 chess, not checkers. Excited to spend the next couple of days with you. Before we start, I have some amazing news to share with you. I played Jack in chess last week and can you believe it? Can you believe it? You must have been really lucky, Charles added. I'm glad you mentioned that. I said something to Jack. He corrected me. He said, chess is not a game of luck, neither is business. He said, I won because I made good decisions. Yes, I know you'll let me win. Blake laughed. But his point is still valid. We need to make good decisions to win. And based on what I've seen over the last few months, revealed started. Chess is not a game of luck. And neither is business. When you win, it's because you made good decisions. Before we launch into creating the future, are there any issues we need to discuss about our most recent action items? It's working, Elizabeth said. Can you be more specific? Susie asked. Sure. I mean, this whole new way of thinking. I mean challenging my people to think more like making chess moves and not make reactionary jumps like you see in checkers. In checkers, it's made my team stop and think. What's next? 100 on the attampt? Brad said. Just talking to people about how we might keep score has been enlightening. Yang! Diaz and my people were already keeping score? Really? Yeah, the problem is they were all working off different scorecards. I wanted so badly to keep score, they made up their own scorecards. It was very confusing and counterproductive. We were away. And resolve that issue. How about you, Blake? Charles asked. Did you didn't see Sam? Yes, he made me wait 3 hours in his lobby, but I ultimately got in. What did you learn? We blew it repeatedly. I'm surprised he'd emphasis loose earlier. I listened and apologized. I've also followed up on a few items he mentioned. We need to strengthen our systems to prevent some of those same mistakes from biting us again in the future. In the future? What's next with Sam? Susie asked. Nothing as far as I can see. But maybe, just maybe, when we're number 1 in our industry, he will consider giving us another chance. Blake continued. Now, how are we going to become number 1? That's the topic of the next few days. My recommendation is to start with our 4 moves Jack taught us. If done, that will help us engage in 112 chess, not checkers, everyone in the business at a new level. And the truth is, we won't achieve our goals without them. Let's begin by talking about what has already been done in each area, based on our previous meetings, and then brainstorm what else we need to do. For the end of our time, we need to decide who is going to do what and when. He looked at Susie and nodded. She smiled. Can I facilitate? Susie asked. Sure, Blake said. She went to the front of the room where the team noticed for the first time there were 4 flip charts. I played a couple of moves ahead and pre-boarded some things. She flipped a page on each chart to reveal the words, bet on leadership, act alone, win the heart, and excel at execution. She then opened the floor to a conversation regarding specific strategies the team could employ in each area. Many of them were ideas the team had discussed previously. But there were new ideas too. One theme emerged rather quickly. Although they had many talented people on their staff, the team realized they needed to invest more energy on recruiting and selecting the right people. The days were gone of filling vacant positions with whoever walked in the door. High-performance organizations don't do that. Blake challenged the entire leadership team to make this a key strategy under Act as 1. He said, we need to select people and then find ourselves hats next. 113 trying to convince them to embrace our core values. Let's use our values as a litmus test for who's invited to join the organization. The days were gone of filling vacant positions with whoever walked in the door. The team also acknowledged the need to build community across the organization. They believed building genuine community would ultimately contribute to their success as a leadership team, and would more than likely enhance the engagement of the entire organization as well. As the process continued, the group was energized as it all began to take shape. Up until that point, they'd been working on pieces, not on the whole. Looking at the 4 moves together made the whole idea come to life and really bolstered their confidence in the approach. The team knew they were onto something that would require the best leadership of their lives. Chassis, more demanding checkers. They understood that part. Lyman weren't sure of was how to turn these pages into reality. The team was just sitting there as if staring at a lovely, newly purchased, very large piece of art, captivated by its beauty, and at the same time wondering how they would get it home. 114 chess, not checkers. Angie was the first to speak. I know I've asked this before, but what's next? Rearchitecting all this into tactical plans and budgets, Brad said as you motioned toward the flip chart. That's what I thought, Angie said. Any suggestions on how we do that? Charles asked. Maybe I can help with that. And the team turned and looked as a man they didn't know entered the room. I'm Jack Doluca. Am I late? No. Jack, you're right on time. Blake said with a big grin on his face. He and Jack had done their best to keep his participation a secret. Secret? Based on the looks on everyone's face, they had succeeded. Jack shook everyone's hand as they introduced themselves to him. As everyone took their seat, Jack said, Blake tells me you're an up-and-coming high-performance team. I'm honored to be with you today. We're delighted you could join us, Charles said on behalf of the team. Thanks for all the coaching and encouragement you provided through your meetings with Blake. We're better because of your investment. It's been my pleasure. I don't know today, Angie said. We're just recapping some of our plans to put the 4 moves into play in our organization. What's next? 115E. Love to review those plans with you if you have time, Jack suggested. Certainly, Elizabeth said. The next couple of hours were amazing. As the group reviewed their thought process and their conclusions, Jack pushed the team for clarity on excitement, just what was to be done. But wow, it was important. It was as if they were receiving 40 years of wisdom distilled down into a couple of hours. Finally, Jack said when I came in, I believe you were asking how to translate these strategies into specific tactics. Is that correct? Yes, Susie said. That was the question. Jack said, I have a suggestion, but before I offer it, I want to share a thought with you. The excuse is intuitively obvious, but I want to tell you why the 4 moves bet on leadership. Act as one, win the heart, and excel at execution are important. You considered that question? The group just sat there, not sure if that was a rhetorical question or not. Blake spoke up and said, We've talked about the individual moves, but probably not talked enough about why the moves matter collectively. It's simple actually. In chess, the more pieces you involve in the game, the greater your chances of winning. In business, including more people has the same effect. People want to be valued. They want to be useful. They want to contribute. How do you make an 116 chess? Not checkers the moves they've been talking about. People show up in a whole new way. It changes everything. Their engagement skyrockets. As a result, the people and the organization are transformed. Some call it a high-performance organization. I call it remarkable. The untapped potential of people always amazes me. In chess, the more pieces you involve in the game, the greater your chances of winning. Everyone nodded in agreement. It was clear. They were still processing what they had just heard from Jack. It was a defining moment for the team. Previously, they'd been focused on what to do. Jack had just helped them understand the bigger why. After a moment of silence, Jack continued. So, my suggestion is for you to always look for meaningful ways to involve your people in the work. In this case, I would recommend each team take 30 days to get input from your people and then complete your plans. Complete your plans. You can then bring your work back to this group for input and approval, Blake said. Let's do that. Everyone has 30 days to get input from your team members. Jack, thank you for joining us today. It was a tremendous gift to our team. Can you stay for dinner? Elizabeth asked. What's next? 117 is. I think I can. I'll stay me, Blake said. We're adjourned. Unfortunately, Jack cannot be with the team on day 2 of the retreat. Blaze appears on day 1 left an unmistakable imprint on the energy and enthusiasm of the entire team. The next day, both Charles and Elizabeth presented great ideas to help the organization play chess, not checkers. Checkers. Several of their suggestions were adopted for implementation across the organization. One tactic Blake especially liked was a quarterly meeting with the entire company. He would use the first of these gatherings to share the purpose, mission, and values for the first time. The leadership team would then assist with communications after Blake's first public presentation. Blake had shared Jack's challenge about cascading key messages. With the team, this would be an ongoing focus. They'll need a success. Fully act as one would require each of them to constantly communicate with their team members. On the issue of band leadership, Charles Reese commended every leader identify someone for targeted development who might someday be his other replacement. Someday be his other replacement. Susie made sure each action item had a specific owner and a clear deadline. She was incredible. Aging just not checkers as the retreat neared its end. Blake went around the room and talked about the unique contribution of each member of the team. He thanked them personally for sharing their strengths and passions with the company. He saved Susie for last. Susie, thank you for your patience with me, bossified. You could have easily walked away at any point over the years. I'm glad you stayed. Thanks, too, for helping me navigate those early days. You knew I was in over my head, but you never said anything about it. Thanks also for the way you have stepped up in my kidding. The team has responded to your leadership extremely well. And thanks for all you have done in your short tenure on this team. You're really making a difference. If you're willing, I would like to remove the interim from your title and officially offer you the job, Vice President of Marketing. Everyone clap. Thank you, Susie said. I don't think I've done anything special. I'm just trying to play chess, not checkers, right? Everyone laughed. Right, Blake said. That's all there is to it. When Blake got home, Megan met him at the door. How was it? What's next? What under 19 really did. How are the kids? They're fine. They want to spend more time with their hero. I know. I think we're about to get a handle on this thing. My plan is to spend a lot more time with you and the kids in the weeks and months to come. I hope so, Megan said as she hugged Blake. Something happened. How are you feeling? I'm thankful for the opportunity to lead this business. I'm thankful for the team. I'm thankful you didn't tell me I wasn't ready to be a CEO. I'm thankful to have Debbie in my life, need to send her some flowers. I'm thankful to have Jack as my mentor. And finally, I'm thankful to know that leading a high peer romance organization is all about chess, not check. Heirs, we are making real progress, and it feels great. Megan was beaming as she listened to Blake's summary. Your dad was right, and I knew it all along. You're becoming a great leader. This page intentionally left blank on 121 epilogue. The next 6 months were crazy, frustrating, exhilarating days for Blake and the team. There was so much to do that the team ultimately decided they needed to scale back the plan for the upcoming year. They data binding any of the moves. They just decided to implement their plan a little more slowly, narrow the focus, as Jack would say. This made the implementation of their ideas much easier. Performance continued to improve. In retrospect, it made perfect sense if you invest in your leader. Ensure the entire organization understands your purpose, mission, values, leverage people's strengths and help them pursue their dreams, and create systems to enable great performance. It works. The most frustrating part of the entire journey was the realization some of their employees danced to play chess. They were more than happy with checkers. Those people had to go. As the company grew stronger and stronger, its reputation and market share grew as well. So much so, Blake was surprised to get an email from Sam, the client they had lost almost a year earlier. It said, "Colon 122, chess not checkers me." Blake did, and that call led to a visit, and that visit led to a restored relationship. Blake and the team had their biggest client back. Susie thrived in her new role. She became the poster child for pursuing her passions. Her story was told over and over and became an inspiration to countless employees. Blake continued to meet with Jack. When he did, they talked about business and played chess. Blake never beat Jack again, but with every visit he became better leader. At home, Megan was delighted Blake was making progress at work. Their quality of life improved steadily over the months. Blake was even able to be home for dinner with amazing regularity. The kids loved getting their dad back. Finally, perhaps the best part of the entire turn-around scenario was Blake's newfound confidence in himself and others. As he discovered, chess not checkers is more than a way to think, and Jack's 4 moves were more than a blueprint for hyper-romance. These were ideas capable of unlocking an entire new world of possibility for his people, his organization, and himself. Blake's next challenge? How would he honor his agreement with Jack and pay it forward? He had some ideas. 123 acknowledgements. If you have never written a book, let me share a secret with you. It requires dozens, if not hundreds, of people to make a project like this a reality. Although it's impossible to publicly acknowledge everyone who contributed to this effort, I want to recognize some of them here. To begin, I want to thank the people who helped create the core content. Jess Stagger, Scott Wozniak, and Betsy Singh played indispensable roles in the process of bringing this book to life. Their research, insight, creativity, and dedication to the work, combined with their patience with me, were remarkable. Their diligence during this project enabled us to find realistic and proven path to high performance. That was the first domino that had to fall, or his book would not exist. Thank you. Thanks to the following business leaders who provided working laboratories in which we could identify and validate the ideas outlined in this book. Brian Allen, Paul Backer, Chris Buckler, William Boyleware, Brian Bowington, Roger Clark, John Collett, Mandy Cooper, Kurt Davis, Joseph DiCola. For acknowledgements, Dennis, Glenn Effort, Scott Fraser, Jamie Fuller, Bob Garrett, Natasha Gilbert, Court Graves, Michael Hancock, Joe Tal, St. Time Cap, Joe Topos, Robert Hansen, John Hughes, Dwayne Johnston, Gary Carrica, Greg Capella, Brad Lingerfeld, Mike Lud Cabela, Brad Lingerfeld, Mike Ludwig, Frida Merquin, Matt Michaels, John Moe, Moko, Ming Michael, Mike Moore, Rob Morris, Bart Norman, Cliff Parker, Greg Patterson, Daniel Perry, Becky Pickle, Joseph Petrowski, Lauren Plain, Jonah, Then Persia, Dusty Pine, Gina Robinson, Rob Arches, Dean Sandbox, Craig Sexton, Josh Sells, Chug Save, Kendrick Skipper, Bruce Sloan, Dan Stanko, Rick Starkweather, Art Tarkwet, Termers, Shane Todd, Kiggy, Matt Weber, Wiltong, Ed Erics, Luke Wilbanks, and Cindy Wilson. Thanks also to the team that commissioned this work years ago. Tim Tasso-Palos, Andrew Cathy, Deanne Turner, Cliff Robinson, and Rob Dugas Project. Their instincts were correct. High performance is not a matter of circumstances, luck, or Dan. High performance is about choices, just like chess. Thanks for your vision and your leadership. Thanks to my wife, Donna, and to my friends Randy Gravity and Mark Conklin, who joined the outstanding editorial team at Barrett College to edit and polish this manuscript. Their efforts added tremendous value in both content and style. Acknowledgements 125. And finally, as noted earlier, this book is dedicated to Truett Cathy. Is not a perfect organization. However, Truett understood the key to long-term success is much more about chess than it is checkers. I'm thankful he showed me and the world how to play the game exceedingly well.